The forest is old, not just in the way that a person grows old, with lines etched into their face and memories tucked away in the corners of their mind, but old in a way that is almost beyond human comprehension. Its roots dig deep into the earth, twisting and turning through layers of soil that have lain undisturbed for centuries. The air itself seems to hum with the weight of time, carrying with it the scent of pine, moss, and something else, something ancient and unknowable. Older than the roads that cut through it, older than the towns that huddle at its edge. These roads, now paved and lined with the marks of civilization, are mere scratches on the surface of a world that has existed long before the first settlers arrived. The towns, with their glowing windows and distant laughter, are like islands of light in a sea of darkness, always aware that the forest is waiting, just beyond the last street lamp. Its trees reach for a sky that has seen centuries pass like seasons. Each ring in their trunks is a silent witness to the passage of time, to storms weathered and winters survived. Down below, in the deep shadows, the ground is soft with fallen needles and secrets. Every step is muffled, as if the forest itself is trying to keep its mysteries hidden from prying eyes. This is the domain of the ancient woods, a place where the air grows still and cold, even in the heart of summer. It is a world that operates on its own terms, under its own laws. Here, the rules of the city, the logic of the modern world, seem to fade away, replaced by something older, something wilder. The mist hangs low, curling around the trunks of trees like ghostly fingers, and every breath you take is tinged with the chill of something unseen. Here, the comfortable certainties of our modern lives begin to fray. The familiar sounds of civilization fade, replaced by the whisper of the wind through the pines, the snap of a twig in the distance, a sound that could be anything or anyone. The forest is alive with movement, but it is a life that is indifferent to your presence. You are a stranger here, an intruder in a world that does not need you, and every sound is a reminder of just how small and vulnerable you truly are. Even the smallest details in this place seem to hold meaning. The way frost clings to the needles, the way the bark peels back to reveal hidden scars. These are the stories of the forest, written in a language few can read. The silence is not empty, but full of whispers, as if the trees themselves are sharing secrets with those who know how to listen. We are drawn to these places. We seek solitude, adventure, a connection to something wild and untamed. There is a part of us that longs to escape the noise and chaos of the world, to find peace in the quiet majesty of the woods. But there is also a part of us that is afraid, that senses the danger lurking just out of sight. It is this tension between wonder and fear that makes the forest so irresistible. We build our cabins, pitch our tents, and walk the winding trails, believing we are masters of this domain, but we are only visitors. We are guests in a house that was not built for us. Our fires burn bright, but only for a little while, and the darkness always returns. The forest is patient. It has seen countless generations come and go, each one leaving behind only the faintest trace of their passing. Sometimes the evidence of our presence lingers, a forgotten campsite, a trail of footprints quickly swallowed by new snow. But the forest reclaims what is hers, erasing our marks with a quiet efficiency. In time, even the memory of our visit fades, leaving only the stories we tell and the fears we carry home. The true inhabitants of these vast, silent woods are rarely seen. They are the shadows that flicker at the edge of our vision, the strange calls that echo in the dead of night. Sometimes it is only a pair of eyes reflecting in the darkness, or a shape that moves with impossible silence between the trees. These are the creatures that belong here, perfectly adapted to a world of shadows and silence. The animals of the forest move with a grace and purpose that we can only envy. An owl glides soundlessly through the branches, its eyes sharp and unblinking. A wolf leaves a trail of prints in the snow, each step measured and sure. They are the true rulers of this place, and we are wise to respect their domain. They are the stories told around campfires, tales meant to entertain but also to warn. For in these endless forests, there are things that defy easy explanation, things that have been here long before us and will remain long after we are gone. The fire crackles, casting long shadows that dance and flicker, and the stories grow wilder as the night deepens. Some are tales of lost travelers, others of strange lights and unexplainable sounds. All of them share a common thread, the sense that the forest is watching, waiting, and remembering. The storyteller's voice rises and falls, weaving a spell that holds the listeners captive. Each word is a thread in a tapestry of fear and fascination, binding the group together against the darkness that presses in from all sides. The stories are more than entertainment. They are a way of making sense of the unknown, of giving shape to the fears that haunt us when the fire burns low. Imagine you are alone. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the darkness comes quickly in the woods. The last rays of light slip away, and the world is transformed. The familiar becomes strange, and every shadow seems to move with a life of its own. The temperature drops, and the air grows thick with anticipation, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Your only light is a flickering lantern, casting dancing shadows that twist the familiar shapes of trees into monstrous forms. Every rustle of leaves, every gust of wind seems to carry a message you can't quite decipher. The path ahead is uncertain, and the darkness behind you feels alive, as if something is following just out of sight. Your heart beats faster, and your senses sharpen. You become acutely aware of every sound, every movement. The forest, which seems so inviting in the daylight, now feels like a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. You wonder if you are truly alone, or if something is watching from the darkness, waiting for you to let your guard down. A profound sense of being watched settles over you, a primal instinct that screams you are no longer the predator, but the prey. It is a feeling that cannot be explained away by logic or reason. It is older than language, older than fear itself. A memory passed down through generations, warning us to beware the things that move unseen in the night. This feeling is as old as humanity itself. It is the fear of the unknown, the terror of what lies just beyond the circle of firelight, waiting with a patience that is not human. The darkness is not empty, but full of possibilities, some benign, others far more sinister. It is in this space, between what we know and what we fear, that legends are born. This is where our story begins, not in a library or a laboratory, but here, in the heart of the wilderness. It begins in the silence between heartbeats, in the shadows that stretch and shift as the moon rises. It begins with a question. What if the stories are true? What if there really is something out there, watching, waiting, and hungering? The moon hangs low, casting a pale light that does little to dispel the darkness. The wind stirs the snow, sending flurries swirling through the trees. Every sense is heightened, every nerve on edge. You feel the weight of countless eyes upon you, and you realize that you are not alone. Not truly, not ever. It begins with a feeling, a whisper, a shadow that is too tall, too thin to be cast by any known animal. It moves with a purpose that is both alien and familiar, as if it has been here forever, waiting for someone to notice. You catch a glimpse of it between the trees, and your blood runs cold. It is a presence that cannot be explained, only felt, a reminder that the forest is full of things we do not understand. It is a story that has been passed down for generations, a legend that refuses to die because for some, it is not a legend at all. It is a chilling reality. The elders speak of it in hushed tones, their voices trembling with a fear that is all too real. They tell of encounters that defy explanation, of disappearances that are never solved, of footprints that lead into the woods and never return. The evidence is scattered, hidden in old newspaper clippings and half-remembered stories. Some dismiss it as superstition, a relic of a more fearful time. But others know better. They have seen the signs, heard the cries in the night, and felt the icy grip of terror that comes when the forest decides to reveal its secrets. It is the story of a creature born of cold, hunger, and despair. A creature known by many names but most feared as the Wendigo. It is said to haunt the deepest parts of the forest where the snow never melts and the wind never stops howling. Its hunger is endless, its presence a curse upon the land. To see it is to know true fear, to understand that there are things in this world that cannot be reasoned with or escaped. Tonight, we open the files on this terrifying entity, and we ask you to join us as we venture into the pines. We will follow the trails of those who came before, listen to the stories whispered in the darkness, and search for the truth behind the legend. The forest is waiting, the Wendigo is watching, and the story is just beginning. The name itself carries a chill, Wendigo. Even whispered, it seems to echo through the trees, a word that lingers in the cold air long after it's spoken. It is a name that has haunted the forests and the nightmares of those who dwell near them for centuries. A name that is never uttered lightly, especially when the wind howls and the snow falls thick and silent. Wendigo is a word from the Algonquian languages of the First Nations peoples of North America. Its pronunciation and spelling shift from region to region. Wendigo, Whitico, Wendigo. But the meaning is always steeped in dread. It is a word that conjures images of the deepest winter, when the world is locked in ice and hunger gnaws at the belly. It is a word that speaks of something ancient, something that has always lurked at the edge of human experience, waiting for the moment when desperation and darkness meet. The evil spirit that devours mankind, the cannibal. But the Wendigo is more than just a monster that stalks the woods. It is a force, a presence, a shadow that falls over the soul. It is the embodiment of a terror that is both physical and spiritual, a hunger that is never satisfied, a craving that grows with every bite. It speaks of a hunger that is insatiable, a corrupting force that twists the body and shatters the soul. The Wendigo is not just a creature that preys on the flesh. It is a sickness that preys on the mind and the spirit. It is the whisper in the darkness that tempts the desperate, the cold hand that reaches out when all hope is lost. It is the fear that, in the end, we might become the very thing we dread. This is not merely a monster of tooth and claw. The Wendigo is a concept, a manifestation of the darkest human fears and taboos. It is the story we tell ourselves to explain the unthinkable, to give shape to the horror that lies within us all. It is the embodiment of the ultimate taboo, cannibalism, the act of consuming another human being not out of malice, but out of desperation, out of the primal urge to survive at any cost. It represents the ultimate sin, the act of consuming another human being to survive. A choice that, according to the lore, damns the soul forever. In the stories, this act is never taken lightly. It is always the last resort, the final step on a path of suffering and despair. But once that line is crossed, there is no going back. The person who succumbs to the Wendigo's hunger is lost, transformed into something monstrous, something that is no longer truly human. According to the legends passed down through countless generations, the Wendigo was once human. It may have been a hunter lost in a brutal winter, a warrior overcome by greed, or a member of a starving community who resorted to the unthinkable. The stories vary, but the core remains the same. The Wendigo is born from desperation, from the moment when survival eclipses morality, when the need to live becomes stronger than the bonds of kinship and community. In these tales, the transformation is both a punishment and a warning, a reminder of the thin line that separates humanity from monstrosity. This transformation is the core of the terror. It is not an external beast that attacks from the shadows. It is a corruption that grows from within. The Wendigo is the darkness that lives inside us all, the part of us that is capable of terrible things when pushed to the brink. It is the fear that, given the right circumstances, anyone could become a monster. The stories are not just about the creature in the woods, they are about the creature that might be lurking inside the person next to you or inside yourself. The first taste of human flesh awakens something terrible, a spiritual sickness that consumes the person they once were. It is described as a kind of possession, a loss of self that is both horrifying and tragic. The Wendigo is not simply a villain, it is a victim as well, a person who has been overtaken by a force they cannot control. The hunger becomes all-consuming, erasing memories, love, and hope, leaving only the need to feed. Their heart is said to turn to ice, their humanity draining away to be replaced by a bottomless, gnawing hunger that can never be satisfied. The cold is not just outside, but inside, freezing the soul, numbing compassion, and turning the person into a hollow shell. The Wendigo is a creature of winter, of endless cold and endless want, a being that is forever cut off from warmth and comfort. The lore describes this transformation in horrifying detail. The newly created Wendigo grows unnaturally tall and emaciated, its skin stretched taut over its bones, giving it a skeletal, corpse-like appearance. Its limbs are elongated, its fingers twisted into claws, its mouth stretched wide in a perpetual snarl of hunger. The creature is a grotesque parody of the human form, a reminder of what has been lost. Its complexion is ashen, the color of death, and its eyes are pushed back deep into their sockets, glowing with a malevolent light. These eyes are said to pierce the darkness, to see through the snow and the night, always searching for its next victim. The Wendigo's gaze is a curse in itself, a look that chills the blood and freezes the heart. Its lips are tattered and bloody, shredded from its constant gnawing. The hunger is so great that it chews its own lips, unable to find relief even in its own flesh. The Wendigo is a creature of endless torment, driven by a need that can never be fulfilled. Despite its starved form, it possesses supernatural strength and speed, able to move through the forest without a sound. It is a master of the hunt, a predator that is always one step ahead, always watching, always waiting. The Wendigo is said to be able to mimic voices, to lure travelers off the path, to sow confusion and fear before striking. It is a creature of cunning as well as brute force, a hunter that uses every tool at its disposal. It is a perfect predator, driven by one single horrifying purpose: to hunt and to consume. The Wendigo is relentless, tireless, and utterly without mercy. It is the embodiment of the fear that, in the wild, there is something out there that is always hungry, always searching, always ready to strike. This hunger defines its existence. The more it eats, the larger it grows, and the larger it grows, the more ravenous its hunger becomes. It is a cycle without end, a spiral into madness and destruction. The Wendigo is never satisfied, never at peace. It is always hungry, always empty, always searching for the next meal. The stories say that even as it devours its victims, it feels no relief, only a deeper, more desperate craving. It is a paradox of eternal starvation. It is forever hunting, forever feeding, but never full. The Wendigo is a warning about the dangers of excess, of greed, of the desire for more than one needs. It is a creature that is defined by its lack, by the emptiness that can never be filled. In this way, the Wendigo is not just a monster, but a metaphor, a symbol of the dangers that lie in wait when we let our appetites control us. This is the curse of the Wendigo. It is trapped in an endless cycle of want, a walking embodiment of greed and excess. The Wendigo is a lesson written in blood and snow, a story that warns us of what happens when we lose sight of what truly matters. It is a reminder that in the end, the greatest danger is not the monster in the woods, but the monster within ourselves. The legend serves as a powerful cautionary tale, a stark warning against selfishness and the loss of communal values. In the harsh wilderness, survival depended on working together, on sharing what little you had, on looking out for one another. The Wendigo is the ultimate symbol of what happens when that bond is broken, when the needs of the individual outweigh the needs of the group. It is a story about the importance of community, of compassion, of remembering that we are stronger together than we are alone. In the vast, unforgiving wilderness, the Wendigo is a reminder of the thin line between survival and savagery. It is a story that has endured for generations because it speaks to something universal, something that is as true today as it was centuries ago. The hunger that never ends is not just a curse of the spirit. It is a warning to us all. In the cold and the dark, when the wind howls and the snow falls, we must remember what it means to be human and what it means to lose that humanity forever. The Wendigo is intrinsically linked to the environment that spawned it. To truly understand the legend, you must first understand the land itself, a place where the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual seem to blur, especially in the depths of winter. The story of the Wendigo is not just about a monster. It is about the relationship between people and the wild, untamed world that surrounds them. In these northern forests, the land is not merely a backdrop, but a living, breathing force that shapes every aspect of existence. It is a creature of the North Woods, the vast boreal forests and subarctic taiga that stretch across Canada and the northern United States. These forests are ancient, stretching for thousands of miles, their trees standing like silent sentinels over a world that is both beautiful and forbidding. The snow falls thick and heavy, blanketing the earth in silence, muffling sound and movement. The cold is not just a temperature, but a presence, an ever-present force that seeps into your bones and lingers in your mind. These are what the Algonquian people called the lonely places. They are landscapes of stark, unforgiving beauty, where the winters are long and brutal, and survival is a daily struggle against the elements. The snowdrifts pile high, the trees groan under the weight of ice, and the sky is often a flat, unbroken gray. In these places, the silence is profound, broken only by the occasional call of a raven or the distant crack of a tree splitting in the cold. The land itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the thaw that may be months away. It is in these isolated, silent expanses that the Wendigo is said to roam. The biting wind that howls through the trees is said to carry its voice. The forest, so full of life in the summer, becomes a place of shadows and whispers in the winter. Every gust of wind, every creak of a branch can set your nerves on edge. The Wendigo is not just a creature of myth, but a presence that is felt in the very air, a sense of being watched, of something lurking just beyond the edge of sight. The deep, impenetrable cold is its very essence. The connection between the creature and the climate is no coincidence. The Wendigo is born from the same forces that shape the land: hunger, cold, and isolation. It is a spirit of winter, a manifestation of the dangers that come with the season. The cold is not just a backdrop, but a character in the story, a relentless, inescapable force that tests the limits of human endurance. The legend is a powerful metaphor for the psychological pressures of Wendigo psychosis, a culture-bound syndrome recognized by some psychiatrists. In the depths of winter, when the world is reduced to shades of white and gray, the mind can play tricks. The isolation, the monotony, the ever-present threat of hunger, all of these can wear down even the strongest spirit. The Wendigo becomes a way to explain the unexplainable, to give shape to the fears that haunt the long, dark nights. This condition was reported among northern Algonquian communities and was characterized by an intense craving for human flesh and a paralyzing fear of becoming a cannibal. It was more than just a story. It was a real and terrifying possibility in a world where food could run out and the nearest help was days or even weeks away. The fear of the Wendigo was a fear of what one might become when pushed to the edge of survival. It was often triggered by periods of famine, when the threat of starvation was very real. The isolation and relentless hardship of a northern winter could push a person to the brink of insanity, making the horrifying myth feel dangerously close to reality. Imagine being trapped in a cabin, the snow piling higher each day, the wind howling outside, and the food supplies dwindling with every passing meal. The fear is not just of the cold or the hunger, but of what you might do to survive. Think of the sheer isolation, weeks, perhaps months, without seeing another soul outside of your immediate family. The world shrinks to the size of your cabin, your only companions, the people you live with, and the memories of those who did not survive the last winter. The snow outside is both a barrier and a prison, cutting you off from the rest of the world. The silence becomes oppressive and the mind begins to wander down dark paths. The world is buried under a deep blanket of snow. Food supplies dwindle. Each day, the meals grow smaller, the hunger sharper. You ration every crumb, every scrap, knowing that the next hunting trip might end in failure. The cold seeps into the walls, into your bones, into your thoughts. The fire burns low, and you wonder how much longer you can hold out. The fear of starvation is constant, a gnawing presence that never lets you rest. The days are short, the nights are long and filled with an oppressive silence, broken only by the groaning of ice and the moaning of the wind. The darkness seems to press in from all sides and the mind begins to play tricks. Shadows move where there should be none, and every sound becomes a potential threat. The forest, so familiar in the daylight, becomes a place of terror at night. The Wendigo is said to be most active in these hours, stalking the lonely and the desperate. It is a perfect breeding ground for fear and paranoia. Is the strange sound outside just the storm, or is it something else? The mind, deprived of stimulation and comfort, begins to fill in the gaps with its own horrors. Every creak of the cabin, every gust of wind becomes a potential sign of the Wendigo's approach. The fear is not just of the creature itself, but of the madness that it represents. The fear that you might lose yourself to the hunger and the cold. Is the desperation you feel your own, or is it the first sign of a darker influence taking hold? The Wendigo legend blurs the line between external threat and internal struggle. It is as much about the battle within as it is about the monster outside. The fear of becoming the Wendigo is a fear of losing your humanity, of succumbing to the most primal instincts in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Wendigo becomes the face of this madness, the personification of succumbing to the wilderness. The Wendigo is not just a monster, it is the spirit of the place itself. It is the embodiment of everything that is dangerous and unknowable about the wild. In the stories, it is often described as a gaunt, emaciated figure, its eyes burning with hunger, its body twisted by the cold. But it is also a shapeshifter, a spirit that can take many forms, always lurking at the edge of perception. It embodies the harshness of the winter, the gnawing pangs of hunger, and the profound loneliness of the vast, empty wilderness. The Wendigo is a warning, a reminder of what can happen when the balance between people and nature is lost. It is a story about the dangers of greed, of taking more than you need, and of the consequences of isolation. The legend teaches that to survive in these lands you must respect the forces that shape them, and never forget the thin line that separates civilization from chaos. It is a reminder that nature is not always a gentle, nurturing force. It can be cruel, indifferent, and deadly. The Wendigo is the embodiment of this truth, a spirit that punishes those who break the rules of survival, who give in to desperation and abandon their humanity. The legend is a way of making sense of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness, of giving shape to the fears that come with living on the edge of the world. The stories served as a crucial psychological tool for the people who lived there, a way to understand and articulate the very real dangers of starvation and isolation. Around the fire, families would share tales of the Wendigo, passing down warnings and wisdom from one generation to the next. These stories were not just entertainment, they were survival guides, teaching children to respect the land, to care for one another, and to be wary of the temptations that come with desperation. The Wendigo was the name they gave to the madness that lurked in the heart of winter, waiting for the weak and the desperate. It was a way to explain the unexplainable, to give voice to the fears that could not be spoken aloud. Even today, the legend endures, a testament to the power of the land and the resilience of the people who call it home. The spirit of the lonely places is still out there, waiting in the shadows, a reminder that the wilderness is never truly tamed, and that the line between survival and surrender is thinner than we might like to believe. While the origins of the Wendigo are rooted in ancient tribal lore, its shadow has stretched far into the modern era. The legend, once whispered around flickering campfires beneath the endless northern sky, has found new life in the digital age. Today, the Wendigo is not just a story told in hushed tones by elders, but a living myth that continues to evolve, adapting to the anxieties and fascinations of each new generation. Its presence lingers, not only in the forests of the north, but in the collective imagination of people around the world. The creature has, clawed its way out of the campfire story and into our books, our movies, and our video games. It has become a staple of horror fiction, a recurring figure in graphic novels, and a terrifying boss in countless video games. The Wendigo's image is splashed across comic book covers, its name invoked in podcasts and documentaries, and its story retold in everything from indie films to blockbuster movies. It's as if the Wendigo has become a kind of cultural echo, reverberating through every medium we use to tell stories. Yet this transition has often changed the monster. As the Wendigo moved from oral tradition to mass media, it has been reshaped, reimagined, and sometimes even misunderstood. The creature that once symbolized the dangers of winter starvation and the taboo of cannibalism has in many cases become something else entirely. Its transformation is a testament to the power of myth to adapt, but also a reminder of how easily meaning can be lost or distorted in translation. In pop culture, the Wendigo is frequently stripped of its deeper cultural meaning. The original legend, rich with symbolism and moral lessons, is often reduced to a simple monster story. The nuances of Algonquian beliefs, the warnings about greed, the spiritual consequences of breaking taboos, the connection to the land and the seasons, are sometimes left behind. Instead, the Wendigo becomes just another creature to be feared, a convenient villain for a scary story. It is often portrayed simply as a physical beast, a monster with antlers, claws, and a taste for human flesh. This version of the Wendigo is visually striking, designed to shock and terrify. Its monstrous features are exaggerated for maximum effect: glowing eyes, elongated limbs, and a gaping maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. The focus is on the creature's physical threat, its ability to hunt and devour, rather than the psychological horror that made the original legend so haunting. This version is terrifying to be sure, but it sometimes loses the psychological horror of the original legend, the idea of human transformation and spiritual corruption. In the old stories, the Wendigo was not just a monster lurking in the woods, it was a warning about what could happen to anyone who gave in to desperation, greed, or hunger. The true terror was not the creature itself, but the possibility that anyone could become a Wendigo under the right circumstances. This element of the legend, the fear of losing one's humanity, is often overshadowed by the spectacle of the monster. This modern interpretation often focuses on the monstrous form, borrowing elements from other folklore to create a visually striking creature. The Wendigo is sometimes blended with other mythological beings, its features exaggerated or altered to fit the expectations of a global audience. Antlers, skeletal bodies, and animalistic traits are added to make the creature more memorable, more marketable, and more terrifying. In doing so, the Wendigo becomes a kind of patchwork monster, stitched together from various sources, its original identity sometimes lost in the process. The addition of a deer skull for a head, for example, is a popular and chilling image, but it is a recent invention, not a feature found in the original Algonquian descriptions. This visual motif has become so closely associated with the Wendigo in modern media that many people assume it is part of the ancient legend. In reality, it reflects our own fascination with the macabre, our desire to give the unknown a face, no matter how inaccurate that face may be. This evolution shows how myths adapt and change over time, shaped by new storytellers and new anxieties. Each generation reinterprets the Wendigo to reflect its own fears and obsessions. In the past, the legend warned of the dangers of isolation, starvation, and the breakdown of social bonds. Today, it might symbolize the fear of losing oneself to addiction, consumerism, or the pressures of modern life. The Wendigo is a mirror, reflecting whatever we are most afraid of at any given moment in history. The Wendigo has become a versatile monster, a blank canvas upon which we can project our fears of the wilderness, of our own hidden savagery, and, of the unknown that lurks just beyond the edge of civilization. It is a symbol of the dangers that lie in wait when we stray too far from the safety of the known world. The legend reminds us that no matter how much we tame the land or build our cities, there are still places where the old fears linger, where the wild is not so easily conquered. Despite these changes, the core concept of a malevolent spirit of the wilderness persists. The Wendigo remains a force of nature, a reminder that the world is not always safe or predictable. It is the embodiment of the unknown, the thing that waits in the darkness, just out of sight. Even as its appearance and story change, the Wendigo continues to haunt the edges of our imagination, a symbol of the dangers that come from venturing too far into the wild. Stories of strange encounters and unsettling disappearances in the deep woods continue to surface. Hikers, hunters, and campers tell tales of eerie sounds, sudden chills, and the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Some claim to have glimpsed a shadowy figure moving between the trees, or to have heard voices calling their name from the darkness. These stories, whether true or not, keep the legend alive, feeding our collective fear of what might be lurking just beyond the reach of our campfires. Hikers and hunters report feeling an inexplicable sense of dread, of being stalked by something they cannot see. The sensation is often described as a sudden, overwhelming fear, a primal instinct that something is terribly wrong. Some say the forest itself seems to change, growing darker and more oppressive, as if the Wendigo's presence warps the very air. These experiences are difficult to explain, but they are remarkably consistent across different times and places, suggesting that the legend taps into something deep and universal in the human psyche. They find strange tracks in the snow that belong to no known animal. The footprints are often described as impossibly large, with elongated toes or claw marks that defy explanation. Sometimes the tracks seem to appear out of nowhere, crossing paths with no beginning or end. These physical traces, whether real or imagined, add a tangible element to the legend, blurring the line between myth and reality. They hear voices on the wind that mimic human speech, luring them deeper into the forest. The voices are said to sound familiar, sometimes calling out in the voice of a loved one or a friend. This eerie phenomenon is a common motif in Wendigo stories, a reminder of the creature's cunning and its ability to prey on human weakness. The forest becomes a place of deception, where nothing is as it seems, and every sound could be a trap. These accounts, whether real or imagined, show that the fear the Wendigo represents is still very much alive. The legend endures because it speaks to something fundamental about the human experience. Our fear of the unknown, our vulnerability in the face of nature, and our struggle to maintain our humanity in difficult circumstances. The Wendigo is more than just a monster. It's a symbol of the darkness that exists both in the world and within ourselves. The lonely places still hold a powerful grip on our imagination. Even in an age of GPS and satellite phones, there are still vast stretches of wilderness where people can disappear without a trace. The forest, with its endless shadows and hidden dangers, remains a place of mystery and fear. The Wendigo is the embodiment of that fear, a reminder that there are still things in the world that we do not understand. The question remains, is the Wendigo merely a relic of a bygone era? Is it just a story, a piece of folklore preserved from a time when the world was wilder and more dangerous? Or does it still have something to teach us about ourselves and the world we live in? The persistence of the legend suggests that it continues to resonate, even as the world changes around us. A fascinating piece of folklore? Certainly. The Wendigo is a testament to the power of storytelling, to the ways in which myths can endure and adapt over centuries. It is a reminder of the importance of oral tradition, of the stories we tell to make sense of the world and to warn each other of danger. But perhaps it is more than that. Or is there something more to the endless whispers? The stories persist, not just because they are entertaining, but because they speak to something real. Something that cannot be easily explained or dismissed. The whispers in the dark, the feeling of being watched, the sense that something is out there. These are experiences that defy easy explanation, and they are at the heart of the Wendigo legend. Is it possible that the stories are more than just warnings against greed and starvation? The original legend was a cautionary tale, a way of teaching important lessons about survival, community, and the dangers of selfishness. But the fact that the Wendigo continues to haunt our dreams suggests that it has taken on new meanings, reflecting the anxieties and fears of each new era. Could there be a genuine, unexplained phenomenon at work in the vast, untamed forests of the North? Some believe that the Wendigo is more than just a story, that it is a manifestation of something real, something that exists at the edge of our understanding. Whether it is a spirit, a cryptid, or a psychological phenomenon, the Wendigo remains an enduring mystery, one that continues to captivate and terrify those who venture into the wild. The line between myth and reality can become blurred in the wild places of the world. In the deep woods where the trees block out the sun and the silence is absolute, it is easy to believe in monsters. The boundaries between what is real and what is imagined become porous, and the stories we tell take on a life of their own. The Wendigo is a product of this liminal space, a creature that exists both in the world and in our minds. It is this blurring of lines that we intend to investigate. By exploring the legend of the Wendigo, we hope to uncover not just the truth behind the stories, but the deeper truths they reveal about fear, survival, and the human condition. The Wendigo is a window into the mysteries of the wild and into the mysteries of our own hearts. The tales are numerous, the witnesses are often credible, and the fear they describe is undeniably real. Whether the Wendigo is a monster, a metaphor, or something else entirely, its legend endures because it speaks to something universal. In the end, perhaps the most important question is not whether the Wendigo exists, but why we continue to believe in it, and what that belief says about us, about our fears, and about the wild places that still call to us from the darkness. In the episodes to come, we will pull back the veil of legend and peer into the darkness. We will step beyond the boundaries of what is comfortable, what is safe, and what is known. The stories we are about to explore are not just tales whispered around campfires or passed down through generations as warnings to children. They are living, breathing mysteries that have haunted the forests of North America for centuries, casting long shadows over the land and the people who call it home. As we begin this journey, I invite you to set aside your skepticism, your disbelief, and your need for tidy explanations. Instead, let curiosity be your guide as we open the files that many have dared not to touch. This is more than just a retelling of an old ghost story. It is an invitation to walk the same frozen paths, to feel the same chill in the air, and to sense the same unease that has unsettled countless souls before us. The Wendigo legend is not a relic of the past, but a living force that continues to shape the fears and beliefs of those who dwell near the endless forests and snowbound wilds. We are not here to simply recount what has been said, but to understand why these stories endure, and what truths might be hidden within their tangled roots. This is an investigation, not just into the supernatural, but into the very nature of fear itself. We will approach each account, each legend, and each piece of evidence with the rigor of a detective and the open mind of a seeker. Our goal is not to sensationalize, but to illuminate, to shine a lantern into the darkest corners of the unknown, and to see what stares back at us from the shadows. We will journey back in time to the origins of the myth among the First Nations. Long before European settlers arrived, the people of the northern forests had already named the thing that stalked the winter woods, that crept into dreams and whispered warnings on the wind. The Wendigo was not just a monster, but a force, a presence that embodied the dangers of hunger, isolation, and the unforgiving cold. To truly understand the legend, we must first understand the world in which it was born, a world of endless trees, biting winds, and the ever-present threat of starvation. We will listen to the wisdom of the elders to understand what the Wendigo truly represented to the people who first named it. Their stories are not just warnings, but lessons, cautionary tales about greed, selfishness, and the consequences of turning away from the community in times of hardship. The elders speak of the Wendigo as both a spirit and a metaphor, a reminder that the greatest dangers often come from within. Through their voices, we will seek to grasp the deeper meanings that have been woven into the fabric of the legend. We will explore the cultural significance, the spiritual warnings, and the complex relationship between a people and the land they inhabit. The Wendigo is not just a monster lurking in the woods. It is a reflection of the harsh realities faced by those who lived in the shadow of the boreal forest. The ceremonies, the symbols, and the stories all serve to reinforce the bonds of community and the importance of sharing, even when resources are scarce. In a world where survival often depended on cooperation, the Wendigo is a reminder of what can happen when those bonds are broken. This foundation is crucial, for without it, we can never hope to understand the true nature of the fear. The Wendigo legend is not just about a creature that devours flesh, but about the forces that can consume a soul, desperation, isolation, and the loss of humanity. To see the Wendigo only as a monster is to miss the deeper warning, a warning that is as relevant today as it was centuries ago. The darkness in the woods is real, but so is the darkness within ourselves. We will then examine the chilling historical accounts. These are not just stories passed down by word of mouth, but documented events that have left a trail of evidence in their wake. Letters, journals, and official reports tell of encounters that defy explanation, of men and women driven to the brink by forces they could not understand. We will sift through these records, searching for patterns and clues that might shed light on what really happened in those long, cold winters. We will delve into the stories of men like Swift Runner, a Cree trapper in the 19th century, whose personal tragedy became one of the most infamous Wendigo cases on record. His tale is not just a story of horror, but a window into the pressures and fears that haunted those who lived on the edge of survival. Swift Runner's descent into madness, and the terrible acts that followed, forced both his community and the outside world to confront the possibility that the Wendigo was more than just a myth. His case became a touchstone for debates about mental illness, cultural belief, and the limits of human endurance. We will sift through old journals, newspaper clippings, and court documents that speak of a terror so real it led to unspeakable acts. These records are more than just relics. They are the voices of those who lived through the unthinkable, who tried to make sense of the senseless. Each page, each faded photograph is a piece of a puzzle that has yet to be solved. We will examine the evidence with care, seeking to separate fact from fiction and to understand how the legend of the Wendigo became entwined with the realities of life and death in the wilderness. These are not just fables, they are documented events that force us to confront the disturbing possibility that Wendigo psychosis was a real and terrifying affliction, driving ordinary people to madness and murder under the immense pressure of survival. The isolation of winter, the gnawing hunger, and the relentless cold could push even the strongest to the edge. In these moments of desperation, the line between myth and reality blurred, and the Wendigo became more than just a story. It became a diagnosis, a way to explain the unexplainable. We will explore the psychological and cultural factors that contributed to these outbreaks, and consider what they reveal about the human mind under extreme stress. From the past, we will move to the present. The Wendigo may have its roots in ancient legend, but its shadow still falls across the forests today. Modern encounters, strange sightings, and unexplained phenomena continue to be reported by those who venture into the wild. The legend has evolved, taking on new forms and meanings as it is passed from one generation to the next. We will trace the journey of the Wendigo from the oral traditions of the First Nations to the headlines of contemporary newspapers, and ask what it means to believe in monsters in the age of science and reason. We will analyze modern sightings and contemporary encounters from people who claim to have come face to face with something inexplicable in the woods. These stories are often dismissed as hoaxes or hallucinations, but for those who have experienced them, the fear is all too real. We will listen to their accounts, examine the evidence they present, and consider the possibility that the Wendigo is not just a relic of the past, but a living presence that continues to haunt the forests. What drives people to believe they have seen the impossible? What patterns emerge when we compare these stories across time and place? We will hear from campers, hunters, and park rangers who have stories to tell. Stories they are often reluctant to share for fear of ridicule. These are people who know the woods, who have spent countless hours in the silence and solitude of the wild. Their experiences challenge our assumptions about what is possible and force us to reconsider the boundaries between reality and imagination. Some speak of strange cries in the night, of shadows that move where no shadow should be, of a presence that cannot be explained. Others describe encounters that have left them changed, unable to return to the forest without a sense of unease. We will scrutinize their claims, looking for patterns, for consistencies, and for anything that might separate genuine phenomena from misidentification or hysteria. We will consult with experts in psychology, folklore, and wilderness survival, seeking to understand how fear can shape perception and memory. Are these encounters evidence of something supernatural, or are they the result of the mind's attempt to make sense of the unknown? We will weigh the evidence carefully, always aware that the truth may be more complex than any single explanation. These first-hand accounts are the lifeblood of any modern mystery, the whispers that keep the legend alive in our own time. They remind us that the unknown is never far away, that the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is thinner than we might think. Each story is a thread in a tapestry that stretches back through time, connecting us to those who have come before. By listening to these voices, we honor the enduring power of the legend and acknowledge the mysteries that still linger in the shadows. This series, The Wendigo Files, is a journey into the heart of a primal fear. It is an exploration of the boundaries between myth and reality, between the known and the unknowable. We will travel through landscapes both physical and psychological, seeking to understand why the Wendigo continues to haunt our dreams and our stories. What is it about this legend that speaks to something deep within us? Something that cannot be easily dismissed or explained away? We will navigate the dense forests of folklore, the frozen landscapes of history, and the shadowy wilderness of the human psyche. Each step will bring us closer to the heart of the mystery, but also deeper into the unknown. Along the way, we will encounter stories of courage and terror, of survival and loss, of hope and despair. The Wendigo is not just a monster, but a mirror, a reflection of our deepest fears and our greatest challenges. By facing the legend, we face ourselves. We invite you to join us as we seek to understand the whispers in the pines. These are the voices of the past, the echoes of those who have walked these paths before us. They call to us from the darkness, urging us to listen, to question, and to seek the truth. The journey will not be easy, and the answers may be elusive, but the search itself is what gives meaning to the mystery. Together, we will follow the trail wherever it leads, guided by curiosity and a willingness to confront the unknown. We will present the evidence, the stories, and the theories. Each piece will be examined, each claim considered, as we attempt to build a picture of the Wendigo that is both faithful to the legend and grounded in reality. We will not shy away from the difficult questions, nor will we ignore the contradictions and uncertainties that are part of any great mystery. Our goal is not to provide easy answers, but to encourage deeper understanding and thoughtful reflection. But we will not offer easy answers. The world of the unexplained is a realm of ambiguity, where certainty is rare and doubt is ever present. We will respect the complexity of the legend and the experiences of those who have encountered it. Some questions may never be answered, and some mysteries may never be solved. But that is the nature of the unknown. It resists closure and invites us to keep searching. Because in the world of the unexplained, some questions are not meant to be answered. They are meant to be pondered, to be wrestled with in the quiet hours of the night. The Wendigo legend endures not because it offers comfort, but because it challenges us to confront the limits of our understanding. It reminds us that there are still mysteries in the world, still places where the light does not reach, and still stories that defy explanation. They are meant to be asked in the dead of night, when you are alone and the wind begins to howl. In those moments when the world is silent and the darkness presses in, the questions become more than just words. They become a presence, a feeling, a sense that something is watching, waiting, just beyond the edge of the firelight. It is in these moments that the legend comes alive, and the files we dare to open reveal their secrets. The files are now open. The journey has begun. As we step into the unknown together, remember, the answers we seek may not be the ones we expect, and the truths we uncover may be stranger than any fiction. But it is only by daring to ask the questions, by opening the files and facing the darkness, that we can hope to understand the legend of the Wendigo and perhaps, in the process, learn something about ourselves